Let's head to the Georgia Bulldogs, the number 2 class in the SEC. Georgia is looking to be top dogs for the second straight cycle. Right now, it is Texas. They have 3 5-stars, though. They could add another one on Friday, and Justice Terry, when you find out his decision, that could bump them up to number 1. I mean, this is just shaping up to be another Kirby Smart masterpiece, and it is led by the number 1 defensive lineman in Elijah Griffin and linebacker in Isaiah Gibson. Just loading up on defensive talent. It's what Kirby Smart loves to do, as our Benjamin Wolk of Dogs 24/7 tells us.
You can't talk about the Georgia 2025 recruiting class without talking about their success with 5-stars from the Peach State. Right now, there are 5 5-stars in the state of Georgia ranked in the 24/7 Sports Composite as 5-stars. Georgia has 4 of them committed right now. You got to start with number 1 defensive lineman in the country, Elijah Griffin from Savannah, Georgia. This was Georgia's number 1 must-get prospect in the 2025 class, and Trey Scott made sure to pull him in earlier this fall. You've got the number 1 edge in the country, Isaiah Gibson from Warner Robins. This is a guy that outside linebackers coach Chidera Uzo-Deribe identified early and then ultimately had to flip him from USC, but something that Georgia pulled off over the summer. You've got number 1 linebacker in the country, Zayden Walker. This is someone that Glenn Schumann really liked early on in his career, and he committed to Georgia at the beginning of the summer and really kicked off Georgia's splashes over the summer in the 2025 recruiting class. And then you've got 5-star tight end Elias Williams. This is a freaky athlete from South Georgia, someone that's been committed to Georgia longer than anybody else in the 2025 class, and someone that's going to contribute really early in Athens.
All right, with so much talent on this Georgia class, we talked about them a little bit earlier in the show. We talked very heavy on the defensive side of the ball, but Coop, where do you want to hit on with this Georgia class? I mean, there's so many options.
If I have the time, I'll hit on 2 guys.
Okay,
right?
Go ahead.
Landon Roldan is one of these guys that's not in the top 247, but think about Georgia, the receiver position. A lot of the production that they've manufactured there in that receiver room has been via the transfer portal. Colby Young obviously had some off-field issues. You look at Dylan Bell and what they've been able to Dylan Bell they brought through the high school ranks, Dominic Lovett was a guy that came over via the transfer portal. Landon Roldan's one of those guys that just kind of fits what Georgia wants to do. Mike Bobo, super sudden. I love the verticality. I love his ability to take the top of the defense. They brought in London Humphreys over from Vandy to kind of fill that role. I think this is a guy that could play a little bit earlier than people expected. On the defensive side of the ball, we've been loving these guys up. Elijah Griffin, Isaiah Gibson, Zayden Walker, a Kennebong we haven't talked about. Guy I want to talk about, because I'm going to regret it if I don't, is Chase Linton out of Atlanta. And this was a guy you kind of look at and you're like, all right, well, he's got Rutgers, he's got Georgia Tech, and he's got Georgia. Didn't make a ton of sense. 6'3", 3/4, 220 pounds. I mean, you talk about explosive, dynamic pass rusher, his ability to bend the edge, the speed, the quickness. You looked at him as a junior, former Rutgers commit, and you're like, this guy's pretty raw. I don't understand how he's getting out of the Peach State. Georgia circles back a year later, and he looks like a completely different player. So we talk about ascending players all the time. Andrew and I talk about this. Chase Linton might be one of those guys. Maybe we don't see him at All-American Bowl. Maybe we don't see him at the Under Armour All-American game. And it's going to be one of those guys that say, I wish I had one more exposure point to him, because I think he's got major first-round potential all over him. This is going to be a guy he's going to have to develop. Glenn Schumann, Kirby Smart, they're going to have to get their hands on him. But look out. I mean, this guy 2 to 3 years from now is a baller that I'm really excited about.
I think when you look at Georgia, too, we always think of the defense. And we talked about the offense a little bit, but they look at the receiver position. They do have some weapons there. And that's been one of the things this year that they said, well, what's been wrong with Carson Beck? Why the interceptions? Well, he doesn't have a Lad McConkey. He doesn't have a Brock Bowers anymore. He needs some weapons. Or Georgia, I guess, needs some weapons. He won't necessarily need them. But they've got quarterbacks with Ryan Montgomery coming in, flipping Hezekiah Melender from Boise State. But they needed an upgrade at the receiver position and to get guys that are going to be able to play. And so I think Taylor, C.J. Wiley are big ones.